Welcome to a special Wednesday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Mr. Keeman McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, you can catch up on other 5 live shows throughout the week. So you happen to miss them, especially during this time of year where the holidays are upon us. It's right here in front of our faces. You could go listen and watch them over and over again. Catch up on our past shows as well. So download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can always follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You want to catch our podcast? You can do so by subscribing to War or Anger. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. So type this in your search engine boxes on those podcast platforms. You ready? WARR on Anger. Once again, that's War on Anger on all podcast platforms. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WAR Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Once again, at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very different opinions. You have any different opinions to our extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or on Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid or be just flat out a jerk, I give Lakeena full power to give you fools to build and be a boot.
Ho, ho, ho. Bye-bye.
I love what she says that. But before we begin, we must remind you that you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago, now available on Roku TV. That's right. Get with the program and celebrate with the squad. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku TV, just tap on the sports folder and download Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. But if you don't have a Roku TV, you have a bunch of handheld devices laying around. iPad, iPhone, iTouch, your personal PC, your Chromebook, like I'm using right now. Just download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
A special Wednesday edition of Second City Sports. We got a busy show ahead, sitting a lot to talk about, because we went off for the last 5 days. So let's start off, of course, we'll talk some Bulls and NBA, of course. After an exhilarating buzzer beater late last week, the Bulls fall back into bad habits, against the Knicks. The Bulls fall back into some bad habits on Monday. Being beaten, I should say, by the Rockets. Slow start, a slow second quarter. They were shorthanded because some of their guys were out. Javonte, Green, Derrick Jones Jr., among others. Alex Caruso was in concussion protocols. So, and then of course falling back to the bad habits and such. The Rockets probably had their top 3 guys had their best games of the season. Mm-hmm. So now folks are back to being, knuckleheads again when it comes as far as the Bulls are concerned. So what do you think about that game against? If you want to start with the game last week over the weekend against the Knicks, and then go over into Monday's game against the Rockets.
Well, let's start with last Friday night's game against the Knicks. They were looking to get that win because Jalen Brunson decided to miss 2 free throws. Thank you, DeMar DeRozan, for talking trash to him, mm-hmm. And it worked. Mm-hmm. Number 2, with that Rockets game on Monday, like everybody else, I was disappointed. I know the Bulls didn't practice on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and it showed throughout their first quarter. And the Rockets scored the first 18 of the first 24 points of the game. And like you said, the Bulls did get it together in that second quarter, but that was their only quarter that they played well in that loss on Monday. The Houston Rockets just came in here, no fear. No one expected them to be good this year. They have some young talent, but they cannot play together as a team yet because they're not complete as a full team yet as far as competing for a playoff spot. But Jalen Green did his thing with 24 points, including 6 for 10 shooting from 3-point range. Kevin Martin Jr., I still remember his dad, Lakeena. Tells you how old we're getting, but he has some monster dunks as well. Also, Kevin Porter Jr., one of the best young scorers in the game. He had 36, including 6 to 12 from three-point range. Houston went up in that lane and got every layup that they could, especially Sengun, their center. He had over 20 points as well. So the Houston Rockets were scoring and well. The Bulls were lost defensively. How many times we talked about this, Lakeena? I think we mentioned this on the last couple of shows, but Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan both complained to the referees about not getting calls. I know DeMar DeRozan is more aggressive getting to the basket than Zach LaVine is, but Zach LaVine picked up a technical foul on Monday, and for the situation at the time, it was worth it, but he does this all the time, complaining to the referees. If you don't get the call, just get your butt back down on defense. How many times we've seen this over the last couple of years, Lakeena, when they don't get the call, they think they can stop the game and get the referee's attention. Meanwhile, your teammates are back down on the other end trying to cover your butt to play defense, and they give up easy baskets. I'm sick of seeing that.
Well, yeah, to your point, yeah, I think you get sick of them, complaining to the rest. We know people get on LeBron when he does that because he does that a lot as well. So, but also at the same time, though, I mean, these are all-star veterans. You would think they would get the calls now. We're still having this conversation after like a year, but it's just crazy that's still being an issue. So that's just a little bit nutty. I think that played a little bit of a part, and there were some calls that kind of that it might have changed the tone of the game a little bit. Had not certain parameters been a little bit different, maybe the Bulls could have came back and won that game against the Rockets. But it is what it is. There, I mean, the Rockets had all 5 of their starters in double figures and such. I mean, Porter Jr. 36 points. Definitely a season high for him. And some of the other guys, look, they got a nice young squad. I know some folks they look at their record and they say, oh well, how could the Bulls lost him? But yeah, they got some good young talent on there. So. It's just a little bit crazy. Now they play the Bucks tonight, and look, they did beat the Bucks in Milwaukee, and it looks like Caruso's will be back. I don't know about the Devontae Green and and Derrick Jones Jr. I don't know their status, but it looks like Caruso should be back tonight. That definitely helps, especially defensively. I know Milwaukee's favored by 4.5, so I know that they're going to want their revenge. Milwaukee's been a little bit on a roll lately, so we'll see what happens. And I know Chris Middleton's out. I saw that news late last night. So we'll see. I mean, the Bulls, the key for me in this game will be, do what you did, the last time you guys played Milwaukee. Jump on them early, try to set the tone and make sure, Giannis will get his shots, but especially since Middleton's not going to be there, just try to kind of make guys like force it. Drew Holiday, I know he still can make some big shots at times, but be aggressive early at the point, especially be the interior defense. And look, look, there's a reason why you were able to pull off the upset I guess about a few weeks back against them and their home floor. So let's see if the Bulls can get together tonight.
You're listening to Second City Sports, a special Wednesday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in living color. Sid Lakeena here with you, discussing the Chicago Bulls. We'll discuss the rest of the NBA coming up following this timeout. Lakeena, you brought up the interior defense, and that's another thing I want to focus on. The Houston Rockets, as I mentioned, scored at will, especially in the paint. The Bulls gave up 58 points in the paint. This is not a new problem that just crept up on this team for the last couple of weeks. It's been a problem so far this season. It was a problem last year. And so that's one of the things I'm looking forward to paying attention to in tonight's game against Milwaukee. And also, too, Nikolai Vucevic. We talked about this, Lakeena, during the last few weeks of the show. We saw it early in the season, but the Bulls have backed away from it. And I think Vuce only had 2 or 3 touches in that loss on Monday in the post against the Rockets. Feed Nikolai Vucevic in the post when he has the matchup advantage. We saw them do that at the start of the season, but it seems like for the last few weeks, the Bulls have gone to it sporadically, and they're not doing that on a consistent basis. And if you paid attention in that game on Monday, Vucevic was upset that he didn't get the ball in the no one fed him the ball in the post a couple more times when he had the advantage, and that's disheartening for this Bulls team, because their offense flows better when Vuce is involved. When it doesn't involve Vucevic, we see what DeMar DeRozan does. The whole team stands around. We complained about that. Zach LaVine takes ill-advised shots at times. You just hope and pray that it goes in half the time, and most of the time it misses. So get Nikolai Vucevic involved in the game. There's no better way to start tonight than against Milwaukee, especially like you say with Middleton out. We know what Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to do for the Bucks. Let's see how can you counteract that for Chicago. get Vucevic involved early, and I think the Bulls will be okay. But the interior defense and get Vucevic more involved offensively, those are the two keys I'm looking forward to for the Bulls tonight.
Especially on the inside. We know that Vooch can, can be aggressive on the inside, and so
Hmm.
I think that's probably the thing that, especially if you saw through that during that 3-game winning streak, Vucevic was more involved on the inside, especially around that interior. So try
Yes.
to get him more involved there, and then look, if he feels confident to take the three, okay, fine. Then DeRozan and Zach can get their shots in, Io can get his shots in. I know P. Wilson playing a little bit better lately especially those last 3 games, with the exception of that Rockets game. Just try to kind of get more involved. And I think, look, it's right there. I think the Bulls have it in them to make a run. You just got to get the consistency back going, and I think that's really going to be the thing. And yeah, and our buddy Lamont Scott. Hey, what's up, Lamont? Hope you had a great Christmas. He's been more aggressive in the paint to help himself and others too. So yeah, and look, Lamont's right about that. I mean, you have to, he has to be more aggressive in the interior and to kind of get that bounce. Do like Jokic does. We see how what
Hmm.
he does and such. Get involved and be aggressive in the interior. And most guys won't be able to handle it. So I think that's probably what Vooch needs to do to try to get more consistency there.
Yeah. And one more point I want to bring up before we break for the bottom of the hour. Zach LaVine, I know he had 22 points on Monday, and he did look good in a couple of sequences after he received that technical foul late in that first quarter.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that his game is back? Do you think that his step is back? Because I saw it a couple of times on Monday, and when the game was still competitive in that first half. And for me personally, I like to see Zach be more active defensively. I'm not saying he's going to be defensive player of the year. That's far fetched, but I want to see him be more active defensively. I know he's a scorer. I know that he can jump out of the gym, which is great, but I want to see him put a little bit more effort defensively.
Yeah, and I think that's probably we're starting to see a little bit more. We saw a little bit of that in that Rockets game, like I said before, it got out of hand. And look, you're seeing it more and more. I mean, the defense has never been Zach's thing. We saw him when he was at UCLA. He was never a
Yeah.
defensive guy, but he is getting better with the defense. I think I just need to see more of that to kind of be right there and sort of see that look, okay, yeah, maybe get a block or two, maybe try to block, especially tonight. Maybe he could get try to block Drew Holiday. Maybe get some steals and stuff. We've seen it already this year. We just need to see it more.
Yeah, so the Bulls will take on the Milwaukee Bucks tonight at 7 o'clock Chicago time. And you can see that game locally on NBC Sports Chicago. For those of you in Wisconsin, Bally Sports Wisconsin, Bally Sports North, and for everybody else, NBA League Pass. Lakeena, the break is coming up upon us, but we must take it. On the flip side, we'll talk more about the association and large. If you have Bulls comments for those of you watching and listening, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. We'll talk about more about the NBA. There was some history that was made last night, and we'll review some of the key Christmas Day games as well. And did we see the dunk of the year, perhaps the best Christmas Day dunk of all time? We'll discuss that and a whole lot more as you come back with us. You're listening to Second City Sports, a special Wednesday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. We'll be right back.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy? I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, a special Wednesday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keita McGee on the Twitter and at Keita McGee on the IG.
We have less than 90 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk radio show. So if you want to hit us up in the comments section, you can always do so at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. And just a friendly reminder, you can also now catch Sports Zone Chicago live and on demand on Roku TV. Lakeena, let's continue the basketball discussion by getting to the rest of the NBA at large. As we always do, we'll start backwards with last night's action Tuesday. There was history that was made last night. Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks, a potential MVP candidate, he posted a triple-double against the New York Knicks, scoring 60 points, grabbing 21 rebounds, and dishing out 10 assists as a part of a 126-121 overtime home victory over the New York Knicks.
Yeah, I think I think the Knicks were up by like 8, and there was like less than 45 seconds left, and I guess Luka went to this nice little run, and that helped propelled him. He's the fourth player with multiple 50.5 rebound, 5+ assist games at 23 or younger. He joins LeBron, Rick Barry, and Jason Tatum. Well, we'll get to him in a second, but the important part about this is that if you saw the little memes afterwards, it was pretty funny that with him, especially once they tied the game, they forced overtime. If you saw Coach Tibbs, how he looked. We Bulls fans have seen that look before, so that's a little bit. We've seen that look before. Luka, was just the third player in NBA history with 50 points, 20+ rebounds, and 10 assists in a game. Joining Will Chamberlain, who did it twice. We talked about that. Also, he's also the seventh player all time with a 50-point, triple double at 23 and 302 days. All these youngest players to achieve this goal. Of course, Wilt did it. Will did it. It was the only other person that did it. And but I think I want to warn Mavs fans that when he did an interview with Bally Sports Southwest after the game, he said that he was tired. So that's something to look out for, especially as get further and further into the season. So don't be surprised if you start seeing Luka take some games off, especially gets closer to the end. Because I know Mavs fans want to go into a long playoff run, but you're going to need your star to be at 100%. So if he's getting tired now, that's not a good sign.
And as we said before, Lakeena, even though the Mavs of 19 and 16, they won their last 2 games in a row. I know they beat LeBron James and company on Christmas Day. We'll get to that in a second. But as we said before, last season, Lakeena, we said it so far this season, even though it looks like they're starting to turn around. Who's going to be that second banana to help out Luka Doncic? Christian Wood has been a big disappointment so far. We're still looking for that consistency and Tim Hardaway Jr. And like we talked about during the summer, again, they're going to miss Jalen Brunson. You saw what Mr. Brunson is doing right now with the New York Knicks. So who's going to be that second banana to help out Luka Doncic, especially if he has performances like that? That's going to do good for the short term, but like you said, in the long term, it's going to hinder you.
Yeah, I know Dinwiddie had 25, but yeah, I mean, we know he's inconsistent. So yeah, he definitely really needs. Yeah, we'll see if they make a trade, perhaps maybe try to get that, that second guy, to complement Luca. But it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, something to look out for. Probably, the fatigue might be a factor. Now, Phoenix got a big win against Memphis, 125-108. They've had their struggles lately, so this might be the type of game that they really needed. We'll get to their Christmas Day game in a little bit, but all 5 of their stars were in double figures. Devin Booker did not play, as CP3 had 14, and DeAndre had 16 and 10, and just Jock Landale, who kind of been sort of like been sort of picking up the slack for him. He had 16 points. The first year guy out of St. Mary's, the rookie out of St. Mary's. So a solid win for a Suns team that really needed it.
Yeah, especially as you mentioned that heartbreaking overtime loss at Denver on Christmas Day. They really bounced back with a nice win on the road last night at Memphis. Memphis, I don't know what's going on with them right now. They disappointed me and a whole lot of people on Christmas Day with that horrendous performance at Golden State.
Yeah,
they came out and give a lackluster performance like that. That's inexcusable. I know sometimes these things happen over the long season, but hopefully, if you're Memphis, you got to turn it around mentally. And I think they're still going to be a good team that's going to be there at the end. But they got to get this out of their system as quickly as possible. They just got to turn it around mentally. As soon as they do that, everything else will take care of itself.
Dwayne Washington Jr. led the way for them. We talk about the Suns with 26 off the bench. So nice balance, spread out scoring for the Suns with a team that really needed it. We'll see how it goes for Memphis. I mean, look, I've had questions about that team, so we'll see how that goes there. Boston beat Houston 126-120. Of course, Jaylen Brown had 39, leading the way there for the Celtics, and sort of Boston's been, they got the best record in the NBA right now as we're recording this as of right now, and the last 4 times that a team. Well, okay. Well, I'll say this. I mean, 4 of the last 6 NBA champs had the best record by Christmas Day. So, they got another win last night, and we'll see. I mean, look, they haven't all the off the court stuff. They haven't affected them so far, at the very least. But it's gonna be interesting to see, can they keep it up. Jason Tatum just had 38 points, right behind, of course, Brown's 39. Didn't really have too much, after that. So that could be a factor there, especially if either one of them has an off night. Someone's going to have to step up.
Yeah, we talked about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum being the best duo in the NBA. I still believe that right now. Just like last year around this time, Lakeena, remember Boston was starting to turn it around and getting used to the way they now ex-head coach Ime Udoka wanted them to play. They were starting to get in. You saw their season turned around and eventually went to the NBA Finals before bowing out to Golden State. Right now, they're playing maybe slightly above their heads, but they're still a good team. Like I said, off the court stuff hasn't affected them. They get in and done on both ends on the floor. Remember last year it started with defense and the offense came to them. Watch, rinse, and repeat for the Celtics team, and that's what we're watching right now.
Yeah, so we'll see if Boston can keep it up. The Clippers got a nice win against Toronto, 124-113. I think we're starting to see a little bit of that little spring, Clippers, that's sort of like the little extra spring stuff we're starting to see. PG had 23. Kawhi Leonard slowly kind of getting back on track. He had 15. Zubac led the way with 23 as well, along with PG, and Norman Powell had 22 off the bench for the Clippers. So I think they're slowly starting to get their groove. I'm talking about the Clippers, so maybe we're starting to see why they're one of the favorites. They're 21-15 right now.
Yeah, you mentioned it was a back-to-back situation for the Clippers last night. They had to go to Detroit
Mhm.
overtime against Detroit
Mhm.
to beat that Pistons team. I know Kawhi Leonard sat out that one, but you starting to see the Clippers trying to get healthy, and you starting to see them play aggressive basketball, especially on the offensive end. Like you said, they're perfect 2-0 in their last two games on this East Coast road trip, and so hopefully they are starting to figure out. I picked them to win the championship, so we'll see what happens. Talk to me in another month if they're gonna if I believe that they're going to be a serious contender in that Western Conference, because as we said before the season started, it's going to be a log jam, and we expected this Clippers
Right.
team to be right there. I expect them to be right there if they stay healthy.
Lakers beat the Magic 129-110 as they're starting
Wait a minute, the
East
Lakers
Coast
won a
road trip.
game.
Yeah, they did. I know, right? Yeah, after
Yeah.
losing on Christmas, they beat the Magic. You're starting their East Coast road trip 129-110. LeBron at 28. Wizards beat the Sixers 116-111, and Denver, edged out, pulled away, I should say, from the Kings 113-106. And yeah, those are Indiana beat Atlanta, the battle of the sort of the young gun teams, if you will, 129-114. Buddy Hill had 26, leading the way for the Pacers. And yeah, that's about it for the Tuesday games.
Yeah, one other game I want to mention about from last night. The Warriors beat the Hornets 110-105. I know Charlotte has the worst record in NBA, nine. They're 9-24, I believe now. But Klay Thompson led the way with 29. Jordan Poole had some big buckets last night. I watched the last 6 minutes of that game last night. Jordan Poole had 24 points, but Jonathan Kuminga, we saw some flashes from him
Mhm.
last year. He's going to get some more minutes. He contributed
Mhm.
14 points off the bench, including a key slam dunk that basically pulled the game away, extending that lead to 6, I believe, with under 30 seconds to go. They still getting it done without Steph Curry. Hopefully, he can come back soon. But looks like Steve Kerr, as we said, he had to figure out the second the second unit. Those guys are getting extra minutes now with Curry being out.
Yeah, Kaminga is, definitely, gonna have to be sort of like, carry the load with Steph being out for another few weeks. So we'll see what happens there going into Monday's games. Of course, you mentioned the Clippers, had to go to overtime and beat the Pistons 142-131. You're surprised that they had enough energy left for that game against Toronto last night, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they were able to pull that out. Of course, PG had 32 there. Miami beat Minnesota 113-110. Portland beat Charlotte, 124-113. Brooklyn, they're continuing their run at 125-117.
Yeah,
Definitely,
Darius Garland had a great game for Cleveland, scoring 42 points.
yeah, but it was a losing effort as
Yeah.
KD had 32. 46 points for Garland is a career high for him.
Mhm.
But yeah, they're starting to kind of get it going. I'm talking about the Nets. So,
Mhm.
maybe Jock Vaughn, we talked about it on Friday. Jock Vaughn might have found him, might have found the niche there with them. So
Mhm.
we'll see if they can keep it up. Now, going to the Christmas Day games on Sunday, we'll start with the Sixers beating the Knicks 119-112, 35 points for Mr. Embiid. And look, I mean, this is sort of was one of those games where you thought, it was back and forth for a little bit. I mean, the Knicks were up by 12 in the first quarter, but then the Sixers got into a little bit of a run. The second quarter, outscoring them by 9 points. Then it was sort of back and forth for a little bit, but then of course in the fourth quarter, the Sixers were able to pull away.
Yeah, you pretty much took the words right out of my mouth, and that's what happened. And that's the difference between a slightly average or slightly above average team and a very good team, and that's what you saw with the Philadelphia 76ers as they pulled away in that fourth quarter against the New York Knicks. I know that the Knicks are now on a current 3-game losing streak, thanks to the Bulls. The Sixers are now what the Mavericks did to them last night in overtime, but the Knicks are they're supposed to be this defensive team led by Tom Thibodeau, but defensively they've been having problems. We saw that again on Christmas Day, and so they can score the ball, but their problems has been at times this year playing defense consistently.
And I think that's been the problem too. So yeah, the Knicks. I look. I told you about the Knicks. That you were saying that, hey, this could be the different Knicks team. We're seeing some of those bad habits. So
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there. Of course, Luke only had 32 in the Mavericks win against the Lakers, 124-115. Of course, I believe this was LeBron's 19th Christmas Day game, which takes
Unbelievable.
yeah, which
I know Jordan didn't get that many, and we thought he got a lot, but not compared to LeBron. Of course, I know
No.
LeBron has played longer, but
Yeah, well, yeah, that too, and yeah, that only beats Kobe, but yeah, I mean that else, I got a chance to saw a little bit of this game, and it was one of those games where it's just Dallas was just too much for the Lakers.
Yeah, once again, you take the words right out of my mouth. The Lakers were in it early, especially in that first half.
Mm-hmm.
It's only so much LeBron James can do. I know they're still without Anthony Davis. When he returned, well, who knows? You could flip a coin and predict the day, almost like a bingo situation.
Mm-hmm.
But outside LeBron James, I know Lonnie Walker's been playing okay. I know that Austin Reeves has been okay off the bench for the Lakers, but LeBron James still does not have a shooter. Until the Lakers get a shooter, they're not going to go anywhere. Even if they even make the playoffs, Lakeena. Now, this Lakers team is not dangerous. LeBron needs shooters, and that, if you study the history of LeBron James and his teams, he has at least 2 shooters. You don't have one right now. They don't. The Lakers don't have a shooter right now.
Oh boy, we'll see what happens. We'll see how that goes there. Boston beat Milwaukee pretty handily, 139-118. Jason Tatum led the way with 41. Giannis only had 27. And again, this is sort of one of those games where I guess the Boston kind of jumped on them early, and really didn't look back. I know that that the Bucks came back. I think it was like from what I gather, I think they were up, or I think they were trailing or I think they were like right there with them. But big fourth quarter, a big second half, I should say, and the Celtics were able to hold them off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, Milwaukee was in it early. Boston pulled away in the fourth quarter, like you mentioned, led by Jason Tatum's 41 points. It was defense for the Celtics that got it done. Giannis, I know he had 27, but he needed help, and he didn't get that in the crucial moments where we saw that in the past with this Milwaukee Bucks team. Milwaukee didn't get it, Boston got it, and that's why the Celtics walked away with that important victory at home.
Yeah, big victory there for the Celtics. Let's get to this Memphis game against Golden State. I would have thought that maybe Memphis, especially without Steph, I mean, I would have thought that maybe they would have maybe Coach Jenkins' sweater, maybe that's probably what threw him off. I don't know. I don't know if you saw that before the game. I was like, oh, well, I guess that's getting to the holiday spirit. I think he might have put a little bit too much spirit there as his Grizzlies struggled in that as they were, they beat the Warriors beat them pretty easily. Jordan Poole had 32. Dante DiVincenzo had 19. And I guess Kerr's been playing with different lineups. Clay's been in and out of the lineup. He had 24 in that Christmas game, and basically, they just pretty much dominated. I'm talking about the Warriors did.
Yeah, Memphis only shot the ball 41%, only 23% from 3. They weren't aggressive enough of driving the ball to the basket for my liking, and that was the reason why they lost. Because they couldn't shoot the ball. The Warriors took advantage of their mistakes, and like you said, off and running, they went.
Poole's the third Warriors player at 23 or younger. He's only 22. So he just turned 22 with a 30-point game on Christmas Day. The other two, a couple of Hall of Famers, Rick Barry and Wilt Chamberlain. He joins good company there in that respect. With a Warrior having a big Christmas. The last game of the quintuple header on ABC ESPN. Denver just hung on to beat Phoenix in overtime, 128-125. I actually got a chance to watch this game, and it was actually a pretty thrilling. I mean, it was
it was the best game of the day.
Yeah, it was back and forth. But by the time overtime started, I think the Suns were up by a little bit, and then of course the Nuggets came back, and in overtime, Nuggets outscore the Suns 12-15. That's why they were able to hold them off.
Props out and shouts out to Aaron Gordon, the shooting guard of the Denver Nuggets. He had 7 dunks in his Christmas Day game debut, and he had the dunk of the year, dunk of a lifetime, the best Christmas Day dunk of all time when he dunked over Landry Shamet in overtime. I jumped out of my seat, Lakeena. I said, "This woo." Because if people know me, and I talked about this years ago on the old D and Davis show. I said that Scottie Pippen dunk in Game 6 at the old Chicago Stadium over Patrick Ewing was the best facial dunk in NBA history. I still hold that to that standard. But Aaron Gordon's in that team picture for me. Did you see Landry Shamet just tried to? He was outside the circle, but he just couldn't get himself together. Aaron Gordon, what you're supposed to do if you're gonna go with force to the basket, dunk the ball, and that's what he did. It was so sweet. Love that dunk. The best Christmas Day dunk ever. Period. Anybody want to debate? Go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. We'll talk about it. Carry on.
Look, baby, poor Shamet. He had 31 points, which was a career high. For him, kind of ruined that day for him with that dunk. So look, our buddy Lamont said, Aaron was dope, but also disrespectful, I guess. But like I said, kind of ruined his little debut, little party there. Like I said, 31 points was a career high for Shamet. So. Kind of ruined that little thing with that dunk. I know he's probably having nightmares to that dunk as we speak. So, a solid dunk. But also, too, I think if you're the Nuggets fan, you'll take the win as well.
Yeah, and Nikola Jokic is one of the best players in the league, if not the best big man in the league. He led the Nuggets with 41. Jamal Murray made some big buckets too. Let's not forget that. As we said, Lakeena, as both of them go, talking about Jokic and Murray. The Nuggets go up as well. And don't forget about Michael Porter Jr. as well. But Aaron Gordon, he stepped up big time. Besides that dunk, he has some key buckets as well. Just make your free throws, my man. He missed a couple in overtime, but thank goodness it didn't come back to bite the different Nuggets. But he's usually a good free throw shooter. He just, I guess got caught up in a moment, missing a couple of those free throws in overtime after that disrespectful dunk. But overall, it was a good win for the Nuggets.
Yeah, definitely a good win for them. To keep pace, being that they have the best record in the West right now. So, they definitely needed that win. Now going into we'll say tonight, which is Wednesday, and also tomorrow, Thursday's games. You got Orlando and Detroit at 6:00 tonight. Phoenix, continues their East Coast trip, playing Washington. That's also at 6. Brooklyn, we'll see if they can keep it going against Atlanta. Lakers and Miami. That's the first game of the NBA TV doubleheader. Of course, ESPN has bowl commitments, so that's why these games are on NBA TV. The doubleheader, first game of that doubleheader. Milwaukee and Chicago, of course, that's at 7:00. Minnesota and New Orleans, that should be an interesting one. Of course, Minnesota's shorthanded. We'll see if the Pelicans take advantage of that. Utah and Golden State. We'll see if Golden State can keep up what they're doing after that win last night. Luckily they get back-to-back home games. And Denver and Sacramento, the second half of the NBA TV doubleheader at 9. That should be a fun one.
And that's not a misprint because both those teams played last night.
We'll see. We'll see if the kids get their revenge.
Yeah. And Aaron Gordon did not play in last night's game for Denver. Maybe he'll play tonight. We'll see what happens with that. Now going to Thursday's schedule at 6:00, we'll have the OKC Thunder. They'll travel to Charlotte to take on the Hornets. The OKC Thunder team, Lakeena, even though they're 4 games under 500, they're not a bad squad. They're not a bad squad. I'm not saying they're going to the playoffs or anything like that, but they're not a bad young squad. So let's see what the Thunder can do on the road against the worst team in the NBA and the Michael Jordan Charlotte Hornets. At 6:00 also on Thursday, we'll have Cleveland and Indiana. Indiana surprise team, Lakeena. Keeping Indiana in mind, I want to ask you a question about them coming up. But the Cavaliers and Pacers we're getting on Thursday, 6:00 from Indianapolis. At 6:30 on NBA TV's game of the night for Thursday, we'll have the Los Angeles Clippers traveling to Bingtown to take on the Boston Celtics. Could it be a possible NBA Finals preview? We'll see. At 6:30, we'll have Memphis at Toronto. Let's see if the Grizzlies can get back on track after losing their last 2 games. At 7:00, we'll have the Knicks visit San Antonio to take on the Spurs. And at 7:30, we'll have the Battle of Texas, Houston at Dallas.
Okay, that should be interesting one. And that is your schedule for the next couple of days in the NBA. Your listeners, I can see sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena McGee and Sydney Brown with you. Say we got a few more minutes left. Where do you want to go? Like I said, we're not used to doing Wednesday shows, folks. so bear with us. But yeah, I mean, do you want to just go to the Bears game and get that over with, or do you want to do something else?
I wanted to wrap up this NBA segment by talking about possible coaches of the year. That's why I said keep Indiana in mind. Rick Carlisle has his team playing well right now, as you mentioned. They beat the Hawks last night, and would you consider him not as the top candidate, but at least a top 5 candidate for NBA head coach of the year?
Yeah, I think he's probably definitely. I think Mike Brown will probably be another Mike Brown's probably another one. What he's doing with Sacramento.
Yeah.
I think Michael Malone. You got to think, what he's doing with Denver. I think you got to think his name is probably going to be up there. Well, the interim coach for Boston, I forgot his name, but you got to think he probably could get a nice, nice show on Jacques Vaughn. What he's doing, especially the Nets keep up.
I was thinking about him watching that game on Monday against Cleveland. Yeah, and he's got that Brooklyn situation figured out. As we said on our show last week, for the Brooklyn Nets, keep your name out of the headlines. Go play basketball. This is what happens. You're on a current 9-game winning streak.
Yeah, those are probably like the top 5 in no particular order, like the top 5 so far. So yeah, you could probably put. Well, again, ask this question again in about a month, and we'll see. But yeah, I think those are probably like the 5 that probably would.
Yeah, one more name to consider, Lakeena. They're 21-12 right now. Willie Green, the head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans.
I think there's still like a lot of questions with the Pelicans, especially with the health, especially with Zion.
Okay.
And I think he's probably up there too. But like I said, I think we need more. Yeah, I think I would say I think for some people, I think they probably need to see more, especially if Zion can stay healthy.
Okay, and we have a question from our Facebook page from our buddy Lamont Scott. Do the Bulls have an All-Star this year? If you're talking about the All-Star game, which you can vote now at NBA.com and all social media platforms. Do the Bulls have an All-Star this year? The only All-Star I can think of offhand is DeMar DeRozan. That's it.
Probably the only.
Zach LaVine hasn't played like one. Vooch is not his fault that his teammates can't get him involved on a consistent basis. So so DeMar DeRozan will probably be the only All-Star that could consider from this Bulls team. That's it.
Yeah, I probably would say that as well. And I think Luka is definitely the leader in the clubhouse for MVP. I think he's already making that. But like I said, I mean, if he has the energy, I think. Look, he said like he said last night he was tired, so. Don't be surprised if Coach Kidd starts sitting him, especially as he gets later on into the season. How does a lot of energy?
Yeah, I won't be surprised if it's I think they play again on Thursday against Houston. So if that's the case, don't be surprised. And Lamar chimes in with another comment and says, "If the Nets keep winning, Mr. Vaughn," I assume he's talking about Coach of the Year. We'll see. We'll see. They have the talent, and Kevin Durant is playing magnificent right now. Kyrie Irving is back. He got his game back. He's out the newspaper headlines and so forth. So Brooklyn's been playing very good basketball. We talked about this before, Lakeena, with Brooklyn. And Austin Carr mentioned it, the Cleveland Cavaliers TV analyst there for Valley Sports Ohio. Him and John Michael, they do a great job. I was watching that game the other night via NBA TV, and he talked about this, and we mentioned this on the show before. Jacques Vaughn has Brooklyn playing on both ends, especially defensively. And I know they kind of let down at the end of that game against Cleveland on Monday, but Brooklyn is playing better defensively, unlike early in the year when they had Steve Nash at the helm.
Yeah, so definitely things are starting to turn around now. Like you said, can they keep their names out of the headlines? I think they'll be fine. We're finally seeing like the Nets team that we thought we would see earlier in the season. So definitely, he's definitely good. Right up there. So again, we'll ask this question again in about a month, and we'll see if they can keep it up. So it'll be interesting though. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see what happens the rest of this. As we get closer and closer to the All-Star break, that's definitely going to be like the keys on who will end up doing what. Now, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 is coming up. Of course, we'll talk some NFL. A top player is retired. Will be retired at the end of the season. We got another coaching firing. And a whole lot more. We'll recap some, not all. We'll recap some of the games week 16 this weekend. So a lot to do. Also, too, we'll do some Ovechkin. Mr. Ovechkin, has another record in his in his sights, and a whole lot more. Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. More coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared.
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, a special Monday edition. Sorry, a Wednesday edition, right here. We're live and living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can hit up yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keaton McGee on the Twitter and at Keaton McGee on the IG.
And we have less than an hour left of this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you want to hit us up in the comments section, you can always do so at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Typing your questions or comments in the comments section, Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. And a friendly reminder, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. Lakeena, let's kick off hour number 2 by talking some football, digging into the NFL. But first, we gotta mention these disgusting Chicago Bears, now 3-12 on the season after losing another home game, this time to the Buffalo Bills, perhaps your future Super Bowl champion, by the score of 35-13. Justin Fields, 119 yards passing off of 15-23 passing, a quarterback rating 92.5. David Montgomery had 16 carries for 62 yards. They were in it, Lakeena, for most of the game, but in that fourth quarter, the Buffalo Bills exploded to put that game away, and they showed why they are one of the best, if not the best, complete team in the NFL, minus Von Miller's absence due to an ACL injury.
Yeah. I mean, they kept it close for a little bit. I'll give the Bears credit for that, but I think they real halfway through that third quarter, I think they the Bills realized, oh, okay, yeah, we're better than the Bears. So we saw that Josh Allen was able to bounce back from those 2 interceptions that he threw. Came back, threw a couple of touchdowns, had a rushing touchdown. Devin Singletary, you'll be happy with this, led the team in rushing 106.
I know, yay!
And a touchdown. Gabe Davis and Dawson Knox each had a touchdown catch. But yeah, I mean, look, Stephon Diggs wasn't really a big factor, but look, that's why you got the other receivers as well. I think he only had like 3 targets, instead we'll talk about Diggs. But the defense, and look, you give the Bears credit where it's due. I mean, look, you had they did intercept Josh Allen a couple of times, but you can kind of tell, Fields got a little banged up at the end of that game. Near the end of that game, I know they said that it was someone stepped on his foot or whatever, but even still, this will call to question some of the people saying that he should, perhaps maybe sit for the rest of these next couple of games. You're really not gaining much of anything, so that you think that that course is gonna be even louder, especially if God forbid he gets hurt in these next couple of games. But yeah, I mean, look, the defense played okay. I'm talking about the Bears defense. They had like I said, those 2 interceptions from Allen, but again, it just shows you that the Bears are not where they need to be. And look, this offseason is going to be really well. We'll get more into that as it gets further down the line. But look, like I said, I think that this. I know people want to say, "Oh, they fight it and such," but yeah, you want results, and we'll see next year we actually get those results.
Yeah, I want to ask Bears fans right now on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. We want to see and hear your responses. Would you sit Justin Fields for the last 2 games of the season? Of course, they're playing Detroit this coming weekend. We'll preview that matchup for what it's worth on Friday, because it's a bigger game for Detroit as they try to clinch a playoff spot. Of course, next week the Bears will host the Minnesota Vikings in a regular season finale. Perhaps it won't mean anything for the Bears, and I don't think it's going to mean anything for the Minnesota Vikings, because they already have the division clinched, and I think they'll have the number 2, not worse at worst, the number 3 seed already wrapped up. So I don't think Minnesota, you'll see any of their starters. So if you're a Bears fan, would you like to see Justin Fields sit for the last 2 games of the season, which it won't mean anything, obviously, for the Chicago Bears? We'd like to get your responses on Sports on Chicago's Facebook page or Sports on Chicago on YouTube. Lakeena, I wish we had a sound effect like the late great Dub Banks, and this is for Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott. If you have Josh Allen rush less, if you use your running backs and they gain more yards than your quarterback in the rushing department, you will win. As you mentioned, Lakeena, Devin Singletary over 106 yards rushing. Jalen Cook, the younger brother of Minnesota Vikings star Dalvin Cook, he had close to 99 yards rushing. If Buffalo Bills can get that, especially during the playoffs run, hopefully it's a long playoff run for them, they're going to win and perhaps go to the Super Bowl. But Josh Allen, don't forget, he still has that bad right elbow injury. I know they know that, but if you have Josh Allen rush more than your running backs, you're going to have a problem. And Lakeena, and before we get to the rest of the NFL, what did we say on Friday regarding to this Bears-Bills game? Watch out for Gabe Davis. He scored the first touchdown of the game, and you can run on that Buffalo Bills defense. I'm sure that's McDermott calling me right now. Yeah, I said it. Follow the damn game plan, you'll win. But we said that Gabe Davis would be a factor in this game on Friday. He scored the first touchdown of the game for Buffalo. And with Von Miller's absence for that Buffalo Bills defense, the Achilles heel for that defense is their run defense. We saw that run defense bent, but it didn't break. The Bears, one of the reasons why the Bears were in that game, because they rushed the ball with David Montgomery and they forced a couple of turnovers, but it was Buffalo's offense and the lack of talent of the Bears which prevailed at the end.
All right, let's go to the rest of the NFL, because like I said, I didn't watch the game, so I'm not even gonna comment too much on that one. Now we won't go through all of them like we usually do on Mondays. But yeah, just gonna go to some of the top games. Some of these games. Remember, some of these games happened on Saturday. Because of because it was the Christmas holiday. But Minnesota got another comeback win against the Giants, 27-24. Great Joseph with another field goal this time. I think it was from 51 yards to
61 yards.
61 yards. Another an impressive one nonetheless to repel them in that win. Another comeback win, sort of derailing the Giants' chances. They're getting slimmer and slimmer. They fall to 8-6-1, while the Vikings go to 12-3. Kirk Cousins threw for 3 touchdowns. Of course, Dalvin Cook. Speaking of Dalvin Cook, had 84 rushing yards. But Daniel Jones had an interception, and a touchdown pass, and a losing after effort. But it was really sort of like the defense of the various defenses. The Vikings sacked Jones 3 times, including a couple of big ones that kind of derailed the Giants' chances. They gave the Vikings another chance to win that game, and they did.
Yeah, and also too on the flip side for the New York Giants. Daniel Jones, you mentioned, had a good game, 334 yards to the touchdown. But it was Saquon Barkley, especially in that fourth quarter. He had 14 carries for 84 yards in that late touchdown to tie the game for the New York Football Giants. But Lakeena, who's going to be that stud wide receiver for the New York Giants? I know Darius Slayton has taken his turns trying to be that guy this year, but who's going to be that big playmaker for Daniel Jones outside of Saquon Barkley? Right now, they just don't have it.
We'll see what happens there. Another sort of like top game, of course. The Chiefs beat the Seahawks 24-10. looks like I think them we might be saying bye bye to the Seahawks playoff chances. So and also too Cincinnati beat New England. They held them all 22-8, and that last play I got a chance to actually see that, and I think it was an interception. I think it was a fumble. It was a fumble. It was a fumble. It wasn't an interception. It was a fumble, and that pretty much because the Patriots had a shot to win that game and perhaps keep their playoff hopes alive now, but now they fall to 7-8. So that might be it for them as well. And don't look now, but the Carolina Panthers upset the Detroit Lions.
I told you on Friday.
yeah. All right. Yeah. 37-23. Sam Darnold, his return, threw for 250 yards and a touchdown. It was Dante Freeman and Chuba Hubbard. They combined for over 308 yards or 300. I can't count. This is me. I can't count. Almost 300 yards. And Freeman had the touchdown, but it was a rushing attack that definitely propelled the Panthers in that game and keep it. And look, they still got a shot to win the NFC South. Go figure on that. Despite everything that's happened, but they still got it. The Panthers still have a shot to win that division. So just we thought that maybe Detroit still has an outside shot, but look, the Panthers had a big first half. They racked up 240 rushing yards, the most in franchise history. Of course, we told you about Hubbard and Foreman. They rushed for over 100 yards for the first time in the first half since Maurice Jones-Drew and Fred Taylor did it in 2006. So the Panthers still have a shot in spite of everything they've been through.
Yeah. On the flip side for Detroit, Jared Goff had a good game with 355 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. And DJ Chark had four catches for 108 yards. But we talked about that Lions defense, Lakeena. They were terrible to start the year. They were forcing turnovers during their recent winning streak over the last couple months. But that Lions defense got exposed last Saturday. Their run defense was absolutely terrible. I don't think they even forced now one turnover. So that's the main reason why they lost. But they still have they still control their destiny in their own hands. So talking about the Lions as far as getting into the playoffs, they must beat the Bears this week, and they must go to Green Bay to beat the Packers next week. We'll get to Green Bay in just a moment, but Detroit still, even though it's a slim chance, according to some people, they still control the destiny in their own hands.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll see what they do there these last couple of weeks. Baltimore, they clinched a playoff spot. I know the Baltimore fans will be happy about that. Tyler Huntley had a touchdown pass. Threw for 115 yards, no interceptions. I think that's you'll take that if you're a Ravens fan. Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins had nice rushing performances as well. It was really their defense. I'm talking about the Ravens. They were kind of like right there. They had they only sacked Desmond Ridder twice, but luckily for them, they were playing Atlanta, so they really didn't have to do too much, but they still ended up winning that game now, and they're now going back to the playoffs.
Yeah, let me ask you this question, Lakeena. One, that final score is your fitting, I call it pre-1980s football, but a couple of things. One, Drake London, the rookie wide receiver for Atlanta, he's going to be a stud. He has 7 catches for 96 yards, but I want to ask this question. If you're a Baltimore fan, I know Lamar Jackson has been hurt the last few weeks. Would you sit him until 2 weeks from now when the playoffs start? I would.
Yeah, I would. Look, Huntley's doing, Huntley's done okay. He's made some mistakes, but he's doing just enough. He's keeping everything afloat. They're gonna have to play regardless. So they still got a small shot away in that division. So they still gotta battle it out with Cincinnati. But I probably would. I think Huntley has shown that he's actually been pretty solid. So I would say let him play until. Look, that PCL injury, I think I don't know whether or not Lamar Jackson practiced today, but we'll see. But I think for right now, I would say keep Huntley in there.
Yeah, you can sit Lamar Jackson for the next 2 games and get him ready for the playoffs. One of the upsets that took place on Saturday, the Tennessee Titans, they lose to the Houston Texans 19-14. Derrick Henry for the Titans, 23 carries, 126 yards and a rushing touchdown. Of course, we mentioned on Friday that Ryan Tannehill, the starting quarterback, was out for the year due to the ankle injury. Malik Willis, what you talking about? Willis filled in for the Tennessee Titans. They didn't have enough offense in the end. Lovie Smith gets his second win second win of the season for Houston, which now, Lakeena, the Jacksonville Jaguars, as I said before the season started, they'll make the playoffs as a wild card. But what the Jacksonville Jaguars did to the New York Jets last Thursday night, they are tied for the lead in the AFC South. Go figure that.
And they play, they actually play each other the last game of the season, so that could very well end up being for that division. So that'll be interesting there. And look, I mean, the Titans, they got a tough go at it because they got to play Dallas this week. So yeah, so this is gonna be they play tomorrow, I believe. So
tomorrow night.
That's gonna be very interesting. So the Jags could be playing for the division, especially if the Titans end up losing to the Cowboys tomorrow night. So that's gonna be very interesting there. They sacked Malik. I'm talking about the Texas defense. They sacked Malik Willis 4 times. They intercepted him twice. You figured that this was probably going to be like the upset, and look, I mean, the Titans, they're just not playing like you thought they would. They fall to 7-8. It's just they're spiraling, and they were struggling even before Tannehill went out for the year, but it was just not a good showing for the Titans there. The wheel is starting to fall off. Now going to the late games, of course, San Francisco might have bumped out the Commanders' chances. They pulled away from the Commanders 37-20. Brock Purdy still showed a little bit of that flash. 2 touchdown passes, 234 yards. But it was really their rushing. I'm talking about the 49ers. Ray McLeod, easy for me to say, had a rushing touchdown. Christian McCaffrey had a rushing touchdown as well. George Kittle had both of those TD passes from Purdy, and Kittle, interestingly enough, there he's the first 49ers player to have multiple receiving touchdowns in consecutive games. You got to go all the way back to T.O. when he did it back in 2002, and Purdy's also just the 4th player to pass for multiple TDs in his first 3 starts since starts were first tracked back in 1950. He joins guys like Mariota, who did it in 2015, Jay Cutler, who threw for 4 straight games, and of course Dan Marino, who did it in 5 straight games. So Purdy's still keeping the train on the tracks for the 49ers.
You think that this is the game plan that San Francisco would have used if Trey Lance was healthy, right? Don't give him too much. Scale the playbook back. If a wide receiver is open, don't throw the guy the football, but run the football and play defense. Brock Purdy's done a nice job for San Francisco so far. I know some people want to bench him if Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy come playoff time, but you leave Brock Purdy in there. He's not doing too much. Kyle Shanahan's not giving him too much to do in the playbook. So the San Francisco's defense is going to hold his own. I know they bent a little bit, but they didn't break it. So the 49ers actually put up points on offense. I'm not expecting to put up 37 points every single game, but once Deebo Samuel, their wide receiver, comes back, they'll be more dangerous. Leave Brock Purdy in there.
I would, but you go with the experience. So we know Jimmy G. They went to the Super Bowl, I should say, with Jimmy G. So you go with the experience. So that's something that Kyle will have to think about that, Bill. We'll see what he does. Probably one of the games of the weekend. The Cowboys came back and beat the Eagles 40-34. Of course, Gardner Minshew. Of course, in relief of Jalen Hurts, who threw for 2 touchdowns, 355 yards, but also had a couple of key interceptions. Devontae Smith had had both those touchdown passes, caught those 2 TD passes from Minshew, 113 yards. AJ Brown, 103 yards. Dak had 347. Threw for 347 yards and 3 TDs there. CeeDee Lamb, if you had him on your fantasy team, in the playoffs, they got a nice little playoff performance there. It was back and forth from start to finish. Probably one of the games of the day.
Yeah, it was the game of the day, and I didn't think this many points will be scored combined between these two teams. But as you said, Lakeena, we will see what Gardner Minshew can do for Philadelphia. He had a great performance. I know he kind of ran out of gas at the end, but I know AJ Brown got hurt early in the game, but he stayed in. But even though there's no such thing as moral victories in the NFL, the Eagles hung with the Cowboys. The Cowboys had to have the offensive performance of a lifetime so far this year to pull off the victory. Dak Prescott, he had an early mistake. He got cut down on some of those turnovers, but he survived the early mistake. He stayed within himself. They stayed within the game plan, and Dallas came out on top. The Cowboys all bailed out the defense.
They trailed by 10 points. Talking about Dallas, going to the 4th, and of course those interceptions that they from Minshew. I think they'll definitely kind of help. J-Ron Curse had one that that definitely helped. Started that rally for Dallas.
Mhm.
So they need. The Eagles really didn't need it, but I think it's more. They already clinched everything. They clinched. They'll probably clinch the 1 seed, and they've already clinched the division. So, but I think if they did support more for pride purposes, so we'll see what happens there. Now, the night game, Christmas Eve night, you got the Raiders and the Steelers. Of course, they honored the now late great Franco Harris, 50th anniversary of that immaculate reception. Kenny Pickett threw for a touchdown. Derek Carr had 3 interceptions, and I just saw some reports that he's being sat. That Josh McDaniels is sitting here for Jarrett Stidham, so he's going to play the rest of the season. It looks like he threw a league-leading 14 interceptions, including the 3 that he threw on Saturday night against the Steelers. And you heard Pickett's comments afterwards say that they all felt Franco Harris's presence. So 13-10. It was actually very similar to the score that was during the Immaculate Reception game. It was actually a very similar score. So
yeah, go figure that.
Fitting, only freakishly fitting, as they say.
Yeah, a couple of things here. One, for the Steelers, we told you that this probably where it was going to go, how it was going to go, and that's exactly how that script played out on Saturday night. But I'm going to focus back on the Las Vegas Raiders. Do you think Derek Carr has played his last game as the Las Vegas Raiders? I think so. Especially if Josh McDaniels say, I'm going to sit you not only for this week, but for next week too.
Yeah, they've lost the last 5 games with leading by halftime. They're tied, with the 06, season for the most in franchise history. They that season. Remember, they went 2-14 that year. And Art Shell, of course, he made his return as a coach, and he got fired there. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Carr did play his last game, because I think, it's not looking good for him so far, especially these last few games. They've had some great wins, but the losses actually have been some of the worst. So it's been a little bit daunting there. But the Steelers are still right there in the playoffs. I mean, you thought that they were kind of left for dead, but now they're 7-8, and they're still got an outside shot against one of the wild cards.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a rebuilding year, right?
Totally. No one told Mike Tomlin and his guys that. So
exactly. And it's in that one game under 500 with 2 weeks to go. So we'll see what happens.
Going to the Christmas Day matchups, there were 3 of them here. Aaron Rodgers had a touchdown pass. AJ Dillon. This is probably one of the uglier games, I think, among the 3. Tua had 3 interceptions, and now they said that he suffered another concussion. Of course, and the Packers win against the Dolphins 26-20. And it still look now, but they're 7-8, and they still got an outside shot to get into the playoffs. Let's talk about the Packers.
Why? Nothing. The Green Bay hasn't played well, but they benefited from those turnovers that Tua served up on a silver platter in that second half. But the one thing I will give Green Bay credit for this, they ran the football with Aaron Jones consistently. And what our Matt LaFleur's team's formula has been over the last few years when they've been winning: run the football first. Take the pressure off of Aaron Rodgers, and makes Aaron Rodgers that much more better. Excuse my broken English, but it makes Aaron Rodgers that much better, and that's what we saw on Christmas Day.
Yeah, a nice little present there, but you feel for Tua though, suffering another concussion. Then Mike McDaniel, of course, the head coach, actually admitted that. But don't look now. But Aaron Rodgers basically challenged his guys. Look, we need to basically win out. They're on their way doing that, so they're now 7-8. So. And their last couple of games, I know that. So this just makes Sid squirm. But the Vikings, we'll see. The Vikings, that's the late. That'll be the late game on New Year's Day, and also too they finish up against the Lions, so that could be for that last playoff spot. So we'll see what happens there. The second game from that Christmas. We can just skip this one, Sid. We'll keep it short with this one.
We all picked the Rams, but I ain't think none of us. I'm talking about us and Christine, but none of us picked the Rams to score 51 points. That's all you need to know.
If you took the Rams in the over, you had a nice little Christmas present there. Baker Mayfield had 2 touchdown passes. Cam Akers, if you had in your fantasy playoffs, 118 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had a nice little showing there. Russell Wilson had 3 interceptions, and Nathaniel Hackett, come here, pay something a late card. Now he's the 37-point victory by the Rams was the largest by any team on Christmas Day in NFL history. They joined the 2020 Saints as the only teams to record a 50 burger on that holiday. So, yeah, Sid, what do you think?
I think Baker Mayfield, we'll see what in these remaining 2 games of the regular season. But right now, I think he has a job in the NFL next year. I don't know if it's going to be as a starting quarterback, but he's going to be playing on somebody's roster as a backup somewhere next year. Perhaps Tennessee, perhaps somewhere else we're not thinking about right now. But Baker Mayfield, I think he's secured a job for next year.
That's showing that he still got it. So we'll see. See what happens there. Now the night game actually, so I got a chance. Actually, it ended up not being too bad. The Bucs beat the Cardinals 19-16 in overtime. Tom Brady didn't have his best game again. Threw 2 interceptions. Trace McSorley threw for an interception. They had to bring Andy Lee on. James Conner rushed for a touchdown. But Bubba Baker, he's up for the year with. I'm talking about the Cardinals safety. But I think Ryan Jessup for one of the top O linemen for the Bucs, he might be back on Sunday, so they're looking for that. But yeah, what do you think about this one?
The Buccaneers offense is putrid, and you would think you would have thought that the Tom Brady and company would rack up some yards against that bad Arizona team, but that just wasn't the case. They had to take it to overtime to get it done, but they still have some weapons there with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans on the outside. You still have Rashard White as a young stud running back for the Buccaneers, and I know Leonard Fournette has had his issues so far this year. So you just don't know what finger to point at for that Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, but somehow they got it done. Thank goodness for them that the Arizona Cardinals are a bad team. That's what I took from it.
Yeah, I think it is what it is with that matchup, and the Cardinals have their own issues, so we won't go into detail about that. But on the flip side, though, the Chargers, we talk about Monday night games, Sid. So that's pretty cool, which is the first for us this year. The Chargers beat the Colts easily 20-3. They clinched a playoff berth for the first time since 2018. Justin Herbert had an interception, 235 yards, but it was Austin Eckler who was the big star there. Rushed for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns and such. But it's been their defense. So I'm talking about the Chargers defense to have gotten better at the right time in their 3-game winning streak. They had the best in the NFL in points allowed and yards allowed since week 14. They've held each opponent to 17 points or fewer. So the Chargers defense, they're getting healthy and they're getting hot at the right time. Although Derwin James, got kicked out for a vicious hit. I forgot what's the right receiver who it was, but yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, but the Chargers, look, don't look now, but the Chargers are actually, they might be a sleeper in that AFC. They're getting healthy, everyone's getting healthy, and the defense is playing better.
Yeah, congratulations to the Chargers, as we call them, the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles on this show. As you mentioned, first playoff berth in 4 years. Justin Herbert will finally see a play in a postseason game. I think Brandon Staley has said, unless they do something ugly in the playoffs, I think he saved his job, the second-year head coach for the Chargers. Congratulations to them. But on the flip side, Lakeena, I was thinking about our buddy Christine Manica, because she was the only one that picked the Colts because of Nick Foles. Nick Foles did not have a good game. 3 interceptions. And I know Troy and Joe Buck on the broadcast, they were talking about bringing Edler in for the Colts. Like, he wouldn't have done that much better. That Colts offense has been atrocious these last few weeks. I know the season-ending injury to running back Jonathan Taylor has a lot to do with it, but Nick Foles didn't do anything on Monday, and putting your backup wouldn't have done nothing either.
Yeah, I think Foles shows you why that he's Nick Foles, even though despite being the Super Bowl MVP, but a few years back with the Eagles. But yeah, I think he kind of showed you why. Real quick, I know we're up against it, but JJ Watt from the Cardinals basically kind of announced that he's retiring at the end of the year. So one of only 3 players to win Defensive Player of the Year 3 times, Lawrence Taylor and Aaron Donald, the other 2. He's the only player since the merger with multiple receiving touchdown, multiple receiving TD, and multiple interceptions returned for a TD. Deion Sanders and JJ Watt. He's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 5-time first team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, two-time sack leader, the 2010s All Decades team, and of course, 2017 Man of the Year when he was with the Texans. So, Sid, what do you think? JJ Watt, first ballot Hall of Famer or no?
He's the first ballot Hall of Famer, just from that resume that you just read. I know the first half of his career, he was on some of those Houston Texans teams that had a chance to go deep in the playoffs, perhaps make a surprise Super Bowl appearance. It didn't happen, but one of the reasons why the Houston Texans were good during his tenure there was because of that defense. Even in the first couple of years of the Deshaun Watson administration there, they had it all with the offense, and the defense was led by Watt. So Watt was a beast when healthy. I know he tried to do the same thing with Arizona, but Father Time catches up to everyone. That's what happened with J.J. Watt. So J.J. Watt, when healthy, was one of the best defensive players in his era. I know another player that can claim to that now, who came in a couple of years after him, is Aaron Donald of the Los Angeles Rams. So it's a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure, and he will be missed.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, his leadership off the field. I saw that Cliff Kingsbury was asked, like, would he coach? I'm talking about J.J. Watt. He said, well, no, he probably thinks Hollywood. Him and The Rock will probably do a buddy action movies for a little bit. That's basically what he said. So, I mean, look, he could probably do some TV work if he wants to. He probably do.
Oh, yeah, he has the personality to do so if he wants to. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to do like studio stuff, or maybe even like for college. I mean, he was an All-American at Wisconsin, so I could see him doing either one of those days. But yeah, congrats on a great career, JJ. Well, we'll talk about that as in the next couple of weeks. But real quick, your studs and duds, Sid. We'll just do like one each. We'll do a stud and a dud. We'll just do one of each.
I'll give my stud to head coach Sean McDermott of the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen did not rush for 100 yards. Yay! As I said before, you let Devin Singletary and Cook rush for the majority of those rushing yards, you'll win some ball games. So I'll give it to the head coach Sean McDermott of Buffalo.
Yeah, I also give it to the Chargers, to the fact that they were able to bounce back from all the injuries they've had earlier in the year, and also the consistencies. Herbert's gotten better. Like I said, that defense gotten better. Mike Williams, they're Keenan Allen, they're getting healthy at the right time. Arson Eckler, has been the consistent. So I'll give it to the Chargers. Go back to the playoffs for the first time in 2018. I don't look like a fool picking the Chargers to be in the playoffs. Yay!
Yeah. And my dud will be the Miami Dolphins.
Well, I'll say the division in the AFC is my dud is the Patriots, just for the various reasons that we mentioned.
All right, break time, Lakeena. 2-2 as we take this official timeout on the special Wednesday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color on Sports Zone Chicago. We have the college football playoff to talk about, and yours truly will give a review of a special program that I watched on NBA TV over the holiday weekend, and plus we'll have some more surprising nuggets and information for you to close out today's show. I'm Sydney Brown. That's Lakeena McGee. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, no thanks, not my thing.
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Oh, I'm sorry. Welcome back to our last segment of the show on a special Wednesday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can hit me up on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You follow me, Keenan McGee on the Twitter and Keenan McGee on the IG.
For all questions or comments during our last 20 minutes or so left in this show for today, you always hit us up in the comment section on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, before I get to my topic, let's hit up the college football talk right now. I know we'll get into this a little bit more deeper on Friday, but the college football playoff will take place on New Year's Day. At 3 o'clock, New Year's Eve, I should say, at 3 o'clock on Saturday, we'll have TCU and Michigan doing battle at the Fiesta Bowl as one national semifinal, and then the nightcap on New Year's Eve night at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Georgia will host Ohio State in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Lakeena, I'll start off with the late game first. Georgia is favored by 6.5. Some people think that Ohio State has a shot to pull off an upset. I think they'll keep it close, but I think Georgia is too much for Ohio State. You go back to Ohio State's loss to Michigan. What was their problem? Turnovers and giving up big plays. And Georgia is great at doing that, creating big plays and running the football.
Yeah, also to the run game for them as well. You know, the run defense for Ohio State. That's how Michigan was able to get them. You know, in their game in Columbus at the Horseshoe. So again, yeah, they have a shot. Of course they do. I mean, look, I'm not going to say that they don't, but I know some people will say they kind of backed into it with USC losing to Utah in the Pac-12 championship, but
they did.
Well, yeah, it's true, but but I'll give them a shot. I mean, that they're in, so you give them a shot. We'll see how CJ Stroud does against that Georgia defense, but Stetson Bennett, we'll see what happens there. The running attack has been very solid. I know I'm talking about the running, for Meon Williams, for the Bucks. I mean, he's kind of been sort of like right there, but they've got, like I said, Georgia's got a nice little running attack as well. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting though to see, look, they've been off for 5 weeks. I'm talking about Ohio State, so we'll see how if that running defense especially can slow down Kenny McIntosh. So it's Marvin Harrison Jr. Of course, we'll see how that secondary does. I'm talking about Georgia secondary. So yeah, this could be one of those games where it's going to be the Peach Bowl. It's going to be in Georgia. So you think there's going to be 2/3 Georgia fans. Ohio State, Ohio State fans travel well too. But you got to think at least 60% will probably be Georgia fans, no doubt. So it's going to be in Atlanta. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we'll get more in depth into it, but on Friday. But yeah, this might actually be pretty entertaining. Probably even more entertaining than folks will give it credit for.
Yeah, I think it'll be the best game of the day out of the two semifinal games. But like you said, Ohio State they'll do it. But like I said, we'll get more in depth into it on Friday. But I do give them an outside shot to keep it close. I'll just say that. But the first national semifinal game will take place on New Year's Eve at 3 o'clock in the Fiesta Bowl. Number 3 Michigan. Number 2 Michigan will host number 3 TCU. Of course, TCU back then more so than Ohio State did with USC losing. But Michigan's favored by 7.5. Lakeena, for Michigan, it's all about running the football and their quarterback not making mistakes. For TCU, I maybe it's just me, but from an outsider's perspective, they're gonna have to play almost a damn near perfect game just to hang in with Michigan.
And they haven't played a lot of perfect games. You could probably say they probably could have had
Exactly.
like 2, and they probably could have and should have lost to K-State if not been for Max Stroud. I think the defense for Michigan, I think they actually been kind of like the unsung heroes this year. I think a lot of people, the Michigan's defense got better and better as the season went on, and they've had 4 weeks off, themselves. So they're gonna be healed up and ready, and I know that Jim Harbaugh will have his guys ready. I know they're gonna be going for Max Duggan, so we'll see how they do. JJ McCarthy, he can't make any mistakes, and he hasn't really made a lot. So we'll see what happens there. Donovan Edwards, of course, Blake Corum's out. I think he'll definitely be the key, and because the TCU's run defense isn't very good, so they might expose that. Now, again, if you're dug in, I mean, again, we'll see how Michigan secondary looks, as especially now that they've been off for about 4 or 5 weeks. But look, this will be one of those games where I think TCU will keep it close. I think they will, but I think, look, we all know that how great Michigan, I should say, does, playing the second half. So this might be, one of those games where they might pull away late. So, but we'll see. It should be an interesting one, nonetheless.
Yeah, you should mention Mr. Edwards for Michigan. He had a great game filling in for Blake Corum against Ohio State about a month ago, and that's one of the reasons why Michigan is in the college football playoff right now. Our buddy Lamont Scott checked in via Facebook, said that Michigan should destroy TCU. I think most of the country will be with you, Lamont, as far as that prediction is concerned, bro. Stranger things have happened every once in a while. We'll see what happens with those two games. Like Lakeena, you mentioned, we'll get more in depth into those matchups coming up on our show on Friday, which is 2 days from now. You're listening to Second City Sports Special Wednesday edition right here on Sports on Chicago. We're live in living color. Sid Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, before we move on, I know there's a few other bowl games that are taking place today and for the next couple of days coming up besides the national championship. I want to get your prediction on tonight's game, which will be seen on Fox if I can find it here. I think it's Oregon versus North Carolina, the Tar Heels.
And that's the Holiday Bowl, the San Diego Credit Union Holiday Bowl. That should be a fun one, I think. But yeah, I mean, North Carolina kind of struggled the last few weeks. I know Oregon, I know they're smarty because they felt like they had a shot to perhaps maybe sneak into the college football playoff. So I think if you're and Bo Nix will be coming back, so I think that definitely gives it a lot of incentive. Drake May, I know that some people might say he might be, have his mind somewhere else, think about the NFL, but I think this should be, I mean, Oregon's favored by 13, so I guess Vegas must know something that, rest of us don't, but yeah, I'll be watching this game, but yeah, it should be an interesting one there in that, on that front for that in the Holiday Bowl. I mean, the Holiday Bowls are always, entertaining, so this shouldn't, this really shouldn't be too, be any different. Now, a couple of other games, Texas Tech and Ole Miss in the Texas Bowl. This should be this should be an interesting game as well, with the previews and such. I know they just extended Joey McGuire to a new extension. He's done a great job with that Texas Tech program, kind of building them back up. But Ole Miss, of course, Lane Kiffin, I mean, we'll see some of his guys, Jackson Dart. I mean, that'll be interesting too. Yeah, this should be a fun one. This will be an interesting game. I mean, look, I think both teams are kind of sort of right there. So this should be an interesting bowl game too.
Yeah, looking at Thursday's schedule tomorrow, Syracuse versus Minnesota in the Pinstripe Bowl. My guy Tanner Morgan, see if you can finish the year on a high note. Let's go. Of course, Syracuse was one of the top They were a top 25 team at the start of the year. Of course, they lost to Clemson, and after that, it just went downhill for the Orangemen. I know they're 7-5. Minnesota, they struggled in the middle part of the season. They finished strong with an 8-4 record. Minnesota's favored by 10.5. I expect Minnesota to win.
Yeah, that's in the Pinstripe Bowl. That's at
Mhm.
noon tomorrow. So that should be a fun one. They're probably one of my favorites. You got two historic programs playing each other at a pretty early, I guess, by their fans' standards. The Cheez-It Bowl, it'll be Oklahoma and Florida State. Oklahoma didn't have the best middle of the season, but they finished strong the last few games. Florida State's been kind of been on a roll lately. Dylan Gabriel and Jordan Travis. I mean, I think Jordan Travis will probably be one of the favorites for next year's Heisman. Dylan Gabriel, he's getting better as well. So this could be a very interesting matchup between two historic programs.
Yeah, this could be a surprisingly high-scoring game. As you mentioned, Oklahoma they finished strong at 6-6, but coming out of that Big 12 conference, they can put up some points. Let's see what Florida State could do to neutralize that.
Should be interesting there. And a good one here tomorrow night in the Alamo Bowl, the Valero Alamo Bowl at tomorrow night at 8. You got Texas and Washington. Both teams are kind of like on the up and up there. Quinn Ewers for Texas and Michael Penix Jr., who will also be back next year for Washington. Both had great seasons. So this should be a very fun matchup. This is the first time these two have played each other in a bowl game. So these two teams, this should be an interesting one, though. Interesting one, a matchup here, nonetheless. So I'm gonna be looking forward to this game tomorrow.
Yeah, and let's go to Friday's schedule. Maryland versus number 23 NC State in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Go figure that.
Someone's get dumped by Mayo. One of both coaches. I don't think they're going to want to be dumped by Mayo, or maybe they will. I don't know. We saw that last year with with Shane Beaver in South Carolina. We'll get to them in a second. But yeah, I mean Mayo. Yeah, that's going to be tough to come out. But yeah,
of course.
Yeah, all ACC rivals battling each other. Tua's Tua's kid brother, of course. Tulia, he plays for Maryland.
Say that 5 times fast.
That's a tough one. Devin Leary has had a good season for, of course, NC State. You thought they would be up there for the ACC, but they had a couple of stumbling blocks. Maryland, has been playing, pretty well too, consistently. Just lost to some of the big teams like Ohio State, Michigan. But still a solid season by Mike Loxley in that Turf program. But this should be a fun game in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, like it usually is.
And check this out in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. Pittsburgh will play number 18 UCLA. That should be a fun one. UCLA is favored by 5.5. In the Gator Bowl, South Carolina will play Notre Dame. Both teams are 8-4. Notre Dame is only favored by 2. Find that to be interesting. I know Marcus Freeman's crew finished up the year strong, but only favored by 2 points. It tells me something. The Vegas thing says South Carolina has a small shot.
Well, remember too. Notre Dame's without their top tight end. We talked about it a few weeks back. He's sitting out because he's going to be going to the NFL draft. So this should be look South Carolina. Look, they beat Clemson. They had a nice last couple of weeks. I know Shane Beaver's guys want to finish strong, but I'm sure so does Notre Dame. So this should be a fun one. This is probably a pick'em game, but yeah, this should be a fun one in the Gator Bowl on Friday.
Yeah, of course, wrapping up the Friday schedule, 3:30 p.m. It says it's on Barstool. We'll see about that. The Arizona Bowl, we have 7-5 Wyoming playing the 9-4 Ohio. I don't know. I'll be honest with you, Lakeena, I don't know too much about these teams, so maybe you can give us some insight there.
Well, a little bit.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, a little bit here about the Wyoming Cowboys. I mean, they've had a very solid last couple. This is like the third straight bowl. Well, actually, the third of their last 4 bowl games. So they've done a really good job with the program. Ohio, this is Frank Solich's last game. He's retiring at the end of the season, so they may want to send him out on a high note. So this should be a fun one. Now the Orange Bowl, it's gonna be first of New Year's 6 bowls. Oh, the Orange Bowl, Capital One. There are lots of orange here. You got Tennessee and Clemson. This should probably be a good one. Lots of orange here in this game.
Yes.
Of course, Jalen Hyatt is sitting out, so that could Tennessee. Of course, Hendon Hooker is gone for the year, so this could be a chance for Clemson to kind of finish strong. And DJ Ogolonier, of course, he's transferred at the end of the year, so I'm just to see how how Clemson looks, hoping to finish strong.
Yeah, Clemson's favored by 4.5. I want to see what Tennessee does offensively. Can they get creative? Like, as you mentioned, Mr. Hooker's gone for the year with that injury. Of course, that team is upset that they didn't go into the college football playoff after playing strong for most of the year before getting beat down by Georgia in Georgia. But I think Clemson, Dabo Swinney will have his guys motivated. I think that Clemson not only covered, I think they'll beat Tennessee by at least 10 to 15 points. That's just my prediction.
Well, yeah, especially with them being shorthanded. I'm talking about Tennessee, of course. Like I said, Hooker's gone for the year. Hyatt sitting out, so yeah, that should be a fun. That should still be a fun match. There's like a lot of orange there. So yeah, so those are your picks. Those are your preview of some of your bowl games for the next couple of days. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Want to talk some college hoops for a few minutes before we go into your show here. Sid, conference play starts tonight for some of these teams. Tennessee and Ole Miss. That's going to be a 4 o'clock on SEC Network. Don't ask me why it's so early, but I digress. Villanova and UConn. Oh, the old Big East is back together again. That's going to be on FS1. Jason Benetti will have the call for that one. Kentucky against Missouri, as we call the Fighting Mike Bermans here on this program. 6 o'clock on SEC Network. Florida.
Yeah, Missouri's 11-1, so
yes,
sure if they upset Kentucky, they'll probably get a ranking.
They could probably get it in, especially if they do beat Kentucky. That should be a good one here on SEC Network. Definitely will be checking that game out. Florida and Auburn at 6 o'clock on ESPN. Let me see here. UIC and Illinois State, a little like in-state battle there. Houston and Tulsa at 6 on ESPNU, and at 8 o'clock, I should say, that Tulsa Houston game. That's the first game for the American Conference for them. Alabama and number 21 Mississippi State. That should be a fun one at 8 o'clock on ST Network. Arkansas and LSU on ESPN2. That should be a good one. Xavier, number 22, Xavier and St. John's at 8 on FS1. Colorado State and New Mexico, number 22 New Mexico with Jamal Mashburn Jr. And also Richard Pitino at the helm. So that should be
we getting old, Lakeena. Jamal Mashburn has a son in college. Woo.
Yeah, I know. Make sure it doesn't make us feel old.
I know.
But look, they're number 22. I'm talking about New Mexico. They're 12-0 right now, and it's gonna be a battle between them and San Diego State and UNLV. They only have one loss too. I remember those old like whack games back in the day when New Mexico, UNLV, Wyoming, BYU, whenever that conference. I remember staying up watching for a few of those games on the weekday. I know my mom already knows that, so I'm not San Diego State, they face their host Air Force, UNLV. On versus San Jose State. But yeah, also Xavier and St. John's, like I said. So conference play starting this week for some of these teams.
Yeah, and we'll get into more of the weekend schedule on our show on Friday. We'll see how Illinois will do. Northwestern, Chris Collins hanging on for dear life. They usually get off to decent starts. When it comes to conference play, they usually fade. We'll see some other local teams can do so. You mentioned URC. Shout out to our guy Jay who calls the games for the Flames. He does a great job for them. I want to see how our local teams do. You think someone will step out besides the Fighting Illini?
Yeah, the Illini, they play Bethune-Cookman tomorrow on FS1. And I saw DePaul has a game. Yeah, FS2 they host Georgetown. They're unranked.
No, Patrick Ewing and crew.
Yeah. Illinois is unranked with their some of their bad losses they've had lately. So unfortunately for that as well. But yeah, like I said, some schools are finishing up their non-conference play while some schools are starting conference play. Michigan faces Central Michigan. Nebraska hosts Iowa. First Big Ten play for them. That's pretty much it for Thursday. I mean, Northwestern, they face Brown. Battle of smart schools, I guess. That's at noon on BTN tomorrow. Ohio State hosts Alabama A&M at 2 o'clock. Purdue, number 1, Purdue, I should say, they face Florida A&M. That's going to be also on the Big Ten Network. So, yeah, so some interesting games coming up in these next few days.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports, a special Wednesday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in living color. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. Lakeena, let's wrap up today's show on a high note, perhaps maybe a possible debate Also, of course, all these networks, I don't care if it's sports, non-sports, had their marathons going on for TV shows, movies, and etc. I decided to check out NBA TV, and they had this program called Ready or Not, the 1996 NBA Draft. Of course, a few years ago, they did a special tribute show to the 84 draft. Of course, they featured Hakeem Olajuwon, Sam Bowie, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, John Stockton was in that draft, and among others. But they did a special with the 96 NBA draft. And some people say that this may be the best draft class ever. Of course, reading out some of these names, you know why. Allen Iverson, Marcus Camby, Stephon Marbury, Ray Allen, Chicago's own Antoine Walker, and of course, all those guys had very good careers. Of course, the late great Kobe Bryant, who was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets, traded to the Los Angeles Lakers on draft night for Vlade Divac. Of course, the trading Vlade Divac made room for the Lakers to get free agent center Shaquille O'Neal a couple of weeks later. And so that's how that move came about. But they had some pretty interesting stories, Lakeena, regarding Jermaine O'Neal. He was also in that draft. He was drafted out of high school by the Portland Trail Blazers. Tony Duck was in that draft, of course. Hall of Famer Steve Nash was in that draft. A young stud from Greece named Peja Stojakovic was drafted by the Sacramento Kings. And, of course, Eric Dampier was in that draft. But remember this player, if you really watched college basketball in the mid-'90s, you remember this name. And he got drafted number 18 to his hometown team out of Syracuse, Mr. John Wallace.
Yeah, I remember that. Right, fresh off of Syracuse going to the Final Four. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, that whole class, that 96 class has actually been, got a lot of Hall of Famers in that class. And look, I think, you probably said there were some cases where that, some guys had better careers than others. Like you said, you mentioned some of the ones that now are now Hall of Famers or about to be Hall of Famers. So yeah, I think that's probably look, this draft class. I mean, of course, look, I mean, Sharif Abdul-Rahim, I think he's coaching somewhere now. I believe. I think he was coaching. Was he coaching the Big Three at one point? I know he's coaching somewhere.
He had a very good playing career. I think he was on that last Sacramento Kings playoff team in 06. I got to look that up, but
he might.
Unfortunately,
have been.
But unfortunately, he was on some bad teams through the majority of his career. But Sharif gave you 22, 25 points a game, and he was very good. But unfortunately, he was on some bad teams through the majority of his career. Other unsung heroes from that draft. Remember Derek Fisher, not from Arkansas, but from Arkansas Little Rock. He was drafted by the Lakers. Great scouting by Jerry West back then. Also, other notable players from that draft: Travis Knight, who turned out to be a bust. But Jeff McGinnis, he turned out to be a good backup point guard for the Clippers and some of the other teams. Remember this pick in the second round, Lakeena? The Charlotte Hornets picked him up, but when he went to this next team, he helped them win 2 championships. I'm talking about Malik Rose.
Yeah, I remember he was at Drexel too. I think they went to. I think he went to the tournament a couple of times when he was there, and it's sort of one of those. Like I said, one of those really solid things. I mean, I wonder what he's up to now. I'm wondering because I think he might he might be coaching somewhere knowing him, but it's sort of one of those things where you're kind of okay, yeah, you sort of you wonder what happened to some of these guys. He was a very good utility player, and I think he kind of once he kind of found his niche. I think he's coaching in the G League now, I believe. So. I think he was definitely one of those basketball minds and such. And when you talk to him, he's very smart. So I think it's probably, I'm sure he's I know he's been coaching. I know he's coaching the G League, I believe now. So remember they showed some of the G League. I thought I saw him on. I think he's coaching the G League. But really solid utility guy too. So yeah, he ended up having a solid career as well with him. But yeah, I think overall that 96 squad, Travis Knight, I remember, he played from UConn. He played for the Bulls for a bit. And I mean, Jerome Williams didn't have a best good career either. He went to, of course, he came from Georgetown. Was really one of the last,
the junkyard dog. Yep.
Was one of him and Iverson. They were kind of they were actually part of one of the last great teams at Georgetown under John Thompson. So that kind of, sort of the career there, of course. Roy Rogers, I remember that name from Alabama. I mean, he didn't really have a great career either.
No, he didn't.
Dante Jones, again, Mississippi State. I remember that name. Walter McCarthy. He actually ended up being a better coach. I know he's coaching some. I know he's coaching. I think he's coaching college now. I believe.
Yeah. I forgot what
Knicks.
because he was on that team. I forgot what team, but he beat Kentucky a couple years ago.
Yes, he did. Yes. Yeah. Oh crap! I forgot. Darn it! I forgot that team. But yeah, John Walls. I think he's. I wonder what he's doing. But yeah, I know Syracuse. I remember that team. Of course, they went to the Final Four just a few months before. Jermaine O'Neal, of course. I know he has a podcast now. I'm talking about O'Neal. He has his own podcast now. Tony Duck. I know he's coaching somewhere. Of course, Steve Nash. Paige Suyaka, of course. I know he's a front office guy somewhere.
Shannon Anderson, who got picked by the Utah Jazz, of course. He guarded Michael Jordan when Brian Russell didn't during those series back in 97, 98. Yeah, he had a very good career. Real quickly, Ken, I know we're up against it, but notable undrafted players that came out of that class. Chucky Atkins had a nice career. Also, Adrian Griffin, now assistant coach. Of course, he played with the Bulls in the early 2000s. Darvin Ham.
His son's doing pretty well, too.
Yep. Darvin Ham, now head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. And, of course, Rusty LaRue. He didn't do too much, but he was part of that 98 team for the Bulls that beat the Jazz in that last dance season. And, of course, Ben Wallace, who's now in the Hall of Fame for Virginia Union. And remember, he was part of history during the 97 preseason, prior to the 97-98 season. Remember, in that preseason game, it was the Wizards and the Lakers in Las Vegas. Go look it up on YouTube. Kobe Bryant just got his afro for that. And remember, that was his second year in the league. They both came out of that same draft class. He dunked over Ben Wallace. It was a nasty dunk. Go look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, it was pretty nasty. Is Rodriguez Elgaskis? Remember that?
Yeah, he had a pretty long good career. The last half of it, thanks to LeBron James.
Yeah, they won a championship. Of course, with LeBron in Cleveland a few years, some years later, probably on the tail of his career, obviously. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you probably said they probably. I know some people will say 84 had a good NBA class. I should say you probably said the more recent ones. I think someone said the 04 draft had a good draft. But yeah, you can definitely think that 96 is definitely the team picture, probably one of the best ever.
Yeah, and our guy Lamont Scott checks in from Facebook. Jermaine O'Neal's daughter is a star volleyball player for South Carolina. Okay.
And our buddy
Brandon, nice to hear there. And what's up to our guy Brandon Schutz from YouTube?
You're talking about
Chicago Bulls, your Bulls roster.
Rocket.
With the yep.
You missed it earlier,
like you said, real quickly, Keno, don't forget about the 03 class of the NBA. Of course, that happened LeBron and Melo, Chris Bosh, Kurt Heinrich, and others in that draft. So that draft class, they're in that team picture as well. So I wanted to say that I watched that program. It was very interesting. Remember that iconic picture from Slam magazine? It had everyone involved.
All the guys,
except for Iverson. Iverson said on camera, someone forgot to tell me to go to that photo shoot. He was the only one not in there.
Yeah, apparently. And that was his excuse that no one that he didn't get the memo of, he had to go for that picture. I'm like, okay, yeah. Granted, this was before cell phones were big. It had like pagers and stuff. But but like you saw Steph, you saw Kobe, you saw Steve Nash, with the hairstyle. My goodness, some of the other guys that were on there.
Let's not forget one more name before we close out. Kerry Kittles. Remember, it was rumor has it that Kobe Bryant was supposed to be drafted by the Nets, and rumor had it at the time. You know the story. If Brian's people said if he was drafted by the Nets, he was going to sit out and not play. Of course, the Nets were scared. I remember that was the first year that John Calipari took over. The Nets, not just head coach, but basketball operations as well. They selected Kerry Kittles. Kerry Kittles went on to have a nice career.
Yeah, he did. I think he's also coaching somewhere too, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, it's gonna be interesting though to see. I mean, the 96, like you said, the 03, you probably someone said 7, NBA class, and if you want to go like recent years, but like I said, 84. I know people say that's probably the best one. I know some people would say, but I think 96 is definitely going to be the team picture. Is probably one if you want to go consistent with how a lot of the players did. So if you really want to do that, use that formula. Sure, you probably say 96 probably has like definitely the top 2 or 3 is probably the best NBA classes of all time. draft class. When it comes to draft class, I should say.
Yeah, and one more class to throw in before we close out. The 92 draft class. Of course, Shaquille O'Neal, Christian Laettner, Lonzo Mourning, LaFonso Ellis. They were in that draft.
Doing television now for ESPN. Has been doing it for
Yep.
years. I mean, 92. Of course, we know Alonzo. Of course, Shaq. Later was a bust. He went to a couple.
Yeah,
of
even though he
games.
did play in the league for a decade, but he failed to live up to. Even though he was an all-star earlier in his career when he got traded to Atlanta, but he didn't really live up to the hype that most people expected. Most people expected him to be a superstar, and he wasn't. But he lasted in the league for a little bit over a decade.
Yeah, he played for like 11 years. Of course, Jim Jackson had a solid career. Of course, he's also doing television as well. Doug Christie is another name. You remember?
Yeah.
Got some headlines for not basketball reasons. We'll leave that alone.
Now assistant coach for the Sacramento Kings.
Yes. There's irony for you. I mean, 92. I mean, I guess. I mean, you could probably say that 92 probably would be up there as well when it comes to like, Harold Miner. A lot of people call him Baby Jordan. Harold, Robert Ory, another good one, of course. Big Shot Bob, as they call him, win like 7 like championships. Tom Guglielmo, remember that name? Sid from St. John's.
He wasn't a bad player, but after he got out of Minnesota, ooh.
Yeah, they're not so well.
Well, he went to Minnesota from Washington. He started out nice with Washington, but he got with Minnesota with Garnett and Stephon. They were growing. I thought he was actually a good fit, but injury slowed him down. He continued to play the next couple of years, but I thought his best fit he was with Minnesota as that team was rising at the time.
Todd Day, of course, out of Arkansas, but that had an okay career with the Bucks, but you can kind of tell his career didn't take off. Clarence Witherspoon, of course, played with the Sixers for a little bit with Chuck at the tail end of his career before he left.
Right, that's after they traded Barkley. He was that guy to fill in his spot. Yep.
Of course, the late great Malik Sealy, of course, with the Pacers. I think with the Knicks as well before his tragic passing. Tracy Murray from UCLA. I think he's coaching somewhere too. Don McLean, I think he's been doing television for a few years. Eminem, as they called him down there over there at UCLA. John Barry, remember that name, Sid?
Yeah.
Now doing television, of course. Oliver Miller, Latrell Sprewell.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think he became the first player to be voted into the All-Star game with his name not on the ballot. That was in '94.
Yep. Let's see. Lee Mayberry. There's a name I haven't heard. I wonder what he's up to. Hubert Davis, of course, now coaching. Had a great career with the Knicks. Now coaching in North Carolina, his alma mater. Oh, and Elmore Spencer. Remember that name, Sid?
Ooh. I almost forgot about that name. Seriously, I'm not on Google, folks. So as Lakeena reading off these names, first memory is shooting in my brain.
Brian Stith, Anthony Peeler.
I liked it. Him and Nick Van Exel were the team, and that was before they got Shaq and Kobe. Oh, that was an exciting team to watch. The Lake Show at the time. It was him, Nick Van Exel, Cedric Sabalos, Eldon Campbell.
They actually had a solid
Eddie Jones.
roster.
That was not a bad squad.
They actually had a solid roster, of course.
Yes, they did.
From Magic and Byron Scott and AC Green and the rest of that group when they all retired or they all got traded or whatever. So a solid show. I mean, 92. I could probably say it's right up there. I wouldn't say though. I'd probably put like maybe in the top maybe 5 or 7 maybe if you want to put that. But I could get
that's
that.
about fair. Yeah,
that's fair enough. Yeah. So we'll probably have this discussion again. But this is a good discussion to round out the show. But
all right, close us out.
With that said, you can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Download our podcast at War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And make sure you give War Media a follow at WAR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We'll be back in 2 days. That's right, folks. 2 days, which means this Friday for our last show for the year 2022. We'll have a surprise guest or two along the way. We'll have some fun. We'll give you our Week 17 NFL picks. We'll discuss the Bulls in their game tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll see how that goes. And then we'll have some fun wrapping up, putting a good bow on our last show on Friday for the year 2022.
Absolutely, and of course, like I said, we'll preview everything else, that's going to be going on right now. So enjoy all the basketball, the bowl games, the college hoops. I know a lot of the soccer, they're back at it as well. So enjoy all that. And for Sid, I'm Lakeena. This has been Second City Sports on a special Wednesday edition on Sports Social Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Till then, go Bulls, holla!